Hi, Roger. Federer. How's it going in Cincinnati? I wonder. So I've been still busy with trying to just touch down from all of the freaking moving and all of the storage and blah 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 for the last couple of weeks. I feel like I'm kind of off my game with the videos and stuff like that and being able to keep up with tennis, and it's just so exciting, or just fun in general, just talking about tennis and being immersed in that and making videos like this. And yeah, and so I'm kind of like, oh, I can't really pay as much attention. But anyway, getting on to you. How's it going in Cincinnati? Did I already ask you that question? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to act like I heard your answer and that you said absolutely great, and that you've won all your matches so far, and that you're doing well, and that your transition to hard court is great. I saw that you actually came to Cincy, as they call it. No, I don't mean that in a bad way. That you came to Cincinnati early so that you could just adjust to the hard court again, which is a great idea. And I just really admire the fact how you try to take really good care of yourself and make sure you're not, that you're not prone to injury or things like that. So that's really good. As a fan, it's awesome to hear you're taking care of yourself. You're looking out for your best interests, obviously. So yeah, and then there's this thing now that I really kind of want to get onto is this thing with Rafa. Rafa's not going to play in the U.S. Open, and I just kind of wanted to make a video just talk about that and what type of indirect impact that has, and perhaps it has no real impact at all, but I'm really curious because for me there are a couple of components. First of all, I feel like Rafa, who doesn't really love Rafa Nadal? Every single player has his or her own personality, and a couple of years ago it was Djokovic who was very good, but he kind of check out at matches, get tired and all of this, and sometimes retiring a lot or frequently, what's considered frequently in the tennis world. And yeah, I just so Rafa has this thing, his own personality, where I feel like he kind of gets a little bit thrown off. I remember there was this thing with somebody incidentally, one of the ball persons or whatever, moving around his water bottles, and he totally freaked out about that, which, I think when people perform on a high level or stuff like that, they need things a certain way, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm condemning him, but just seems like, maybe personally he's a really nice person, but he's also got those little bit of quirks and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people do who perform or who end up performing on a high level, because it does take a lot of focus. So I think since it takes a lot of energy, people really, since they're expending so much energy to perform at a higher level, they sort of kind of need things a certain way, and that's it. But anyway, I'm sorry, I just have to keep checking on my car. I love coming over to this area. It's so relaxing, but then I always try to get away with recently trying to just keep my car over this parking lot or whatever without getting a big obnoxious orange sticker on it from the security guard or whatever because I'm away from my car. It's not that I'm a lawbreaker or anything, but this is a park, you know what I mean? You should be able to park your freaking car and not have to worry about it. But anyway, whatever. So, so I feel like Rafa, has these little quirks. And then it was sometimes the way that he gets angry with, I can't name, any recent, any real thing that comes to mind right now, but sometimes the way he gets upset with the officials, his timing at getting upset, it's kind of quirky sometimes, it's not that he's weird, but it's just kind of quirky. And for I guess a particular thing as well is just being so angry over the clay courts being changed to blue. And I believe Rafa was like angry before he even got a chance to play on the blue clay court. And, you know, first of all, I want to give a little latitude toward him because, you know, maybe I remember seeing this video of Rafa when he's like 11 or 12 years old, like, and he's playing on a clay court. Like, that's his thing. Maybe that's what he's known all of his 25 years. And you know, so maybe it's a little bit weird for him to adjust a blue court. But that just seemed a little bit weird. And just... it felt a little bit obnoxious too for me personally, like to get so bent out of shape, you know, for over Madrid changing the court. And now I understand the court ended up being like slippery and stuff like that, and I understand that, you know, Madrid probably should have consulted with the players maybe just a little bit more just to test it out, you know, with more high performing players who would be utilizing it, you know, to the roughest or to, you know, the most intense level or whatever. I feel like I'm just like talking about nothing right now, but I'm gonna probably upload this video anyway. So yes, I mean, he just got so bent out of shape, and he just talked about how he was not going to come back to Madrid, which was not for me only reckless, but disrespectful, it seemed, to a certain extent in his own country. And then also just obnoxious, you know, like, well, I'm not coming back, you know, it just seemed a little obnoxious to me. And, you know, just to have such an adverse reaction to something, you know, before you even got on the court, like, oh, you changed it to blue, this is not tradition, this is not blah, blah, blah. I mean, it just seemed, for me personally, just ridiculous. And I don't understand, like, what's going on with Rafa. You know, I know he's, like, complaining about the length of the season, which I feel is, like, I feel like the tennis season, you know, I love tennis, but I feel like the tennis season must be freaking grueling for you guys, you know, like the length of it. Imagine only get about a month off in December or whatever. And for me, it looks like, you know, not to get like in Rafa's personal life, but all that I kind of think of as well is that when I see Chiska, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Chiska. When I see her, it's usually at Rafael. If Rafa makes it to a final, that's where I see her at his matches. So I imagine that she has her own life, you know, maybe she goes to school or has some kind of career where she can't travel around the world, you know, like it's a different career from a tennis career, you know. It's not maybe as blessed as situation as, and I can't even really speak on these situations as but I'll just say in general, and I'll say this lightly with a grain of salt, but and respectfully, maybe not as blessed as the situation that Djokovic has with his girlfriend Elena, or maybe not a situation where Roger Federer, like, so sort of lucky in that way. Like Mirka is a tennis player, and, you know, clearly she, like, loves to travel or whatever, you know, loves the tennis, the whole tennis life as well. So not as blessed as the situation when it comes to Rafa. And I just wonder, like, he's been doing this for, I mean, what, a good 6 years? I think Chiska has been together for really quite a long time, at least 4, 5, 6 years maybe. So I just kind of wonder, and I also kind of feel a little bit funny talking about this because, you know, it's not really my business, frankly, but I kind of wonder if some of the weird behavior in the last year has maybe come because of stress in his own personal, private relationship, you know, not being able to see his girlfriend enough. I don't know, you know, I don't know Rafa at all. I don't know Chiska or whatever. I don't know them, so I don't really want to pretend like I could speak or really speculate, but that's my own feeling, you know, within respectful speculation. And I just wonder if some of the pressure and some of the anger has come out as a direct result of that, because I feel like, to a certain extent, I feel like, you know, a woman who's about 25, 26 years old, which I imagine maybe she is between 23 and 26 years old, or maybe even older, I don't know, but I imagine she's around the same age as him, and if they've been together so long, you know, not that I could really assume, but I'm just saying that, you know, there may be a need and a want for a deeper commitment or whatever. I don't know, a deeper level of just being around and being in a relationship more. I don't know. I could be totally wrong or whatever. But I just wonder if that's some of the reason for his behavior. And now I just really feel like, I don't feel like, I have to keep it real. I don't really feel like Rafa is necessarily injured. This all sounds strange to me. I'm not accusing him of being a liar, so just everybody calm down. I really feel like this is something more than just some tendonitis in his knee, because this is really against what Rafa is. Rafa's a ridiculously fierce competitor, and yes, he's had to retire for certain things, and yes, he's taken some time off here and there because of injuries and things like that. But this length of time that he's taken off, and I don't know, also given how it was taken off, you know, after Rosal, there didn't seem to be any injuries. You didn't get any sense of any injuries or anything like that. And I don't know, you know, I just feel like this behavior falls in line with some of Rafa's quirks, you know, his own personality quirks or whatever. And if I were on tennis tour, you know, in all fairness, I'm sure I would have my own quirks. So I'm not crucifying him. I'm just saying, you know, Rafa, when he's losing, he tends to check out. He doesn't want to play. You know, he's lost matches. He's gone ahead. You know, I don't want to make it seem like he checks out of every single match that he's losing. But he, more than anyone else that I've seen on tour, and the way that other people comment on Rafa's behavior when he's in a losing position as well, he tries to do an escape route in a certain way, like whether it's taking a bathroom break or sometimes even having retired. Bizarrely, you know, I felt like, you know, even the U.S. Open, not the U.S. Open, the Australian Open, I think that was 2010, where Murray was like really just pulling Rafa apart, and I just feel like, I don't know, Rafa, all of a sudden, I don't know, a couple of plays before some little problem happened. This is according to my memory. I could be wrong, so everybody calm down if I'm wrong. But yeah, he had like some kind of sudden injury, it seemed to me. And maybe, you know, maybe it's not fair to say it's sudden. Maybe it really was going on the whole time and I just didn't know it. But it just seems like with Rafa that these kind of things happen more than once, like this sudden, you know, move to escape a match that he's losing. And I'm not saying escape like he's afraid or anything, but I'm just saying like it's just kind of like a way of checking out too, you know. And I feel like that's happened on so many different handful of occasions or whatever, where it's just kind of bizarre sudden behavior where it's kind of like it almost can't be attributed to anything else except trying to just get out of a match that he's losing in one way or another. I mean, even at Roland Garros, to a certain extent, once Djokovic got those 8 games, what was it, 7 or 8 games on him, all of a sudden it was like a drop or two of rain and a little wind, and he was like, oh, you know, like, aren't you sure? Like, we should stop. We need to stop, you know, saying to the ref or whatever, oh, don't you think we need to stop? Like, I don't know. It was just bizarre. And yeah. So, I mean, there are a number of things you all can think of where it's kind of like, that's just Rafa's thing. I don't think he's like a cheater or whatever. It's just his own, like, well, whatever. I don't know. It's his own, I don't want to say immaturity. That's like for lack of better word. But that's his thing. That's like his quirk. You know, we all have them, but he has that. Like, he doesn't know how to fully confront just dealing with something head on. That's my thing to a certain extent. I mean, I'm not going to take away from the man or whatever. I'm not going to take away from him and say he doesn't know how to deal with stuff, because he handles stuff on a global level. So I really want to make sure that I'm not giving off the impression that I don't respect it, but I'm just saying, like, something's a little weird. And so those weird things have always happened where they're not kind of like, oh, it seemed like, oh, Rafa's really hurt and he's been playing through an injury the entire match or anything like that. There's a lot of matches where it's just kind of like, okay, I get that he might possibly be hurt, but wasn't the timing like a little off? Just, it doesn't allow the mind to lay right the way certain things happen with him. You know what I mean? Because they happen in an off time. It happens, whatever. Anyway, so I can't really get into explaining it, but yeah, I'm just really interested in talking about that Roger just a little bit. Well, more than a little bit, clearly. Yeah, so I just feel like now, it's like Rafa lost his match to Rosal. He was like completely, picked apart by Rosal, this relative unknown, with all due respect to Rosal. This has happened with Rafa before, you know what I mean? Like I was saying in a couple of other videos, like, it's happened with Del Potro. Like, Rafa gets deconstructed by certain players, and then the more research that I do, it's like my points, which actually in this case are not so ingenious or original, but other people usually say that, like, bigger players, taller players usually can deal with that high bounce or whatever, that high ball that he sends over, a lot easier. And that's all it's really once you get past that, there's not much more to get past other than just general intensity and general athleticism. And it's not to be disrespectful, that's just what other people were saying. So, yeah, it just feels like, this has happened before. I've seen it happen with Del Potro. I've seen Murray do it. I've seen Monfils do it when before Monfils does his crash and burn. I've seen a few other people I can't remember right now, but, I just wondered, like, I feel like some of this is a little bit off in timing. I didn't feel like anything was wrong with his knees or whatever, and that's not to say that this isn't the truth, but again, it's like sometimes the way that things happen with Rafa and the timing always like doesn't like land in a way that's credible. It always lands in a way that feels like a little, not always, but it lands in a way that feels not authentic. It's not that the man's a liar. We know that he's injury prone with his knees and all that, but I'm just saying, like, stuff always just happens conveniently. Not always, I don't know why I keep saying always, but happens conveniently at this time, and never gives the public a chance for it to just sit right, except for the Rafa fan, number one Rafa fans, because I'm a Rafa fan, but I'm a Federer fan first. So yeah, and I'm a little bit, I have to say, like, if this is really the case, and also the fact that, like, stuff doesn't sit right with me, like, it's just a little bit peevish, or peeving that, he's taking all this time off. I mean, has he provided any medical records just to shut us all up? You know what I mean? And yeah, I really feel like that would just be nice to just do that. It's not, and there's a difference between saying provide us with your whole personal, with your social security number. I don't know if he has a social security number. I'm just saying if he were American, that statement would make sense. There's a difference between saying provide us with all your personal information and just throw a medical report out there or something, so that people could just understand a little bit better what's going on, and we don't have to just read it in the paper or take other and online and take other people's word for it. So yeah, and I just really it's hard to believe, because then I saw this. Well, this doesn't necessarily mean anything either, but then I've seen a couple of articles with him, like he's playing tennis the other day. That article I attempted to read in French the other day, I believe that picture was taken quite recently, and Rafa looked pretty healthy to me, but I can't say at the same time that was a picture of him just smiling or whatever on the court with Tsonga. So I can't fully say that that's grounds for saying that he still didn't have pain in his knees or has a problem. So I want to be fair to him in that way. But I'm just saying, like, the timing with which things happen with Rafa, the manner and the suddenness, the way things happen with Rafa, just it doesn't give the public a chance to just meet what he's saying, like, without it, like, feeling authentic. I know I'm not putting into good words, and I know I'm, like, repeating myself again, but I don't know, Roger. It just kind of gets on my nerves. So all of that to say, like, I hope this isn't throwing you off, and maybe you're just being diplomatic. When you were saying that you were concerned, and I'm sure you're concerned, and you have every right to be concerned. You guys are friends, and you've been on tour with each other forever, but I just kind of feel like, you know what? I hope that this is not affecting you in any way, and that's where it comes in, like, as a fan, where I'm kind of like, what the freak, Rafa? You know what I mean? Like, really? So, I wish Rafa well. You guys know I always do. So don't anybody get pissed off. Because I swear to God, somebody leaves a crazy... now, let me stop. But, yeah, so I don't want anybody to think I'm crucifying Rafa. But this is just a call of Rafa, too, to also just, meet the public halfway in that way. Like, if things are going to happen. Because it's just like ongoing habitual here and there over the years where we're never given a chance to really feel like, the situations with him really just sit right in authenticity, So, yeah. And, I feel like, well, you're having a high time in the grass season or whatever. And I feel like, skipping out of the Olympics gives also, a possibility, a chance to not be in the running of conversation, say, oh, Federer's doing better than Nadal. And it's not to, like, stir up the pot or anything like that. And it's really not to accuse Rafa. But, I mean, what the freak else am I supposed to think being a New Yorker? Like, I know game being from New York. You know what I mean? We know game here in New York City. People act. They do all types of things. I'm not trying to diss Rafa, but I'm just saying to Rafa, let things land right with me so that my mind, the door is not open to all of these bad things that I'm saying right now, because I don't want to talk bad about you like that, Rafa. I don't want to think that, and I don't want to have that little voice over my shoulder. Although I'm sure, I'm one person, so it probably don't even freaking matter to you. And you know what? I advise you, I was going to say, it's good. I really don't think that Rafa, anyway, is the type of person to really let a comment get really under his skin too much. But I do think, as far as the Federer-Nadal legacy and the way that Nadal's performing, and the way that Federer is performing on grass right now, that an exit out of the Olympics was less pressure. It's no big deal because he already has a gold medal in the Olympics, and I know this is probably, like, cold and rude to say, but once again, it's like when information is presented to me and it's not presented in a way that sits right, like, this is where my mind, it's like, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I'm a little bit annoyed too, because you know what I mean? Like, Rafa better get himself together, you know what I mean? Like, get on the court, because he knows Federer is at number one right now, and he knows he's going to have to go against Federer. And the last time you guys met, you beat him in Indian Wells, and he knows you're playing really well here. He knows you got your mental game tight. And he's always a threat. It's not that he plays like crap, He had a beautiful year this year, but I kind of think, personally, at the same time, he kind of wore himself out after Roland Garros. And I do suspect that, that was a big mental strain for him, but he also has the best poker face in tennis, so you're never going to really know with Rafa. But I think behind the scenes, given everything the way that everything is played out this season, post Roland Garros, that I feel like that took a lot out of him too. And I really commend Rafa and everything that he's done. In a lot, he's won a lot. He's a great athlete. He's a fighter. He makes tennis fun. He brings his own brand to tennis as well. And there's always something missing, just as if Roger Federer weren't there for me. It'd always be something freaking missing when that person's not playing in tennis. So things are missing, although tennis is still really exciting now, even though he hasn't been there. It's really fun that tennis has still been exciting. So I'm just saying that I feel like a lot a lot was taken out of him after Roland Garros, and to go out against, I think it was either Peschner or Kohlschreiber he went out against at the Gary Halla Open or whatever. So I don't know what's going on with Rafa, but I think an interesting combination of maybe personal things, of real frustration with the tennis situation. And that's another thing too as well, the fact that he just like quit, and I can't say that I haven't been upset with people in most before. I've never quit anything, but recently, gets to the point in life where it's like, what, I've smiled and I've it's kind of like I've done this and I've done that, and I'm not going down that road, and guess what, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice, that type of thing. So I feel like his leaving that post just because he couldn't get the rankings changed to like a 2-year type of deal or whatever. I think it seemed a little bit sort of like having a temper tantrum, and it's kind of the same exact thing that happened with Madrid. And I don't even need to know what the conversation was with you, Roger, or with Djokovic, or behind the scenes or whatever, because we know, we don't even need to be behind the scenes to see, like, Rafa's behavior is a little bit tantrumous over between 2011 2012 in a lot of ways. I don't know what's going on with him personally, but I hope he's able to get it together. And I do think it does have a bit to do, and I could totally be wrong, so I have no idea, but again, it could be having to sort of do like with his personal relationship with his girlfriend and his needs, and then this constant, for him, I think you've always felt the pressure of a Rafa and Roger thing, and I believe on the other hand of it, he's also felt it too. So there's always that too, it's like, I gotta make sure I win against Federer, and I would be in that frame of mind, you know what I mean, because the media is just gonna love to talk about how Roger's finally beating Rafa again or whatever in a major or whatever, like, I'd be really competitive against you, Roger, too, if I were Rafa, because given all the talk and given all of what's at stake behind this and behind your legacy. So I just kind of feel like the way Rafa's doing this, though, is making it, again, really hard for it to land right and feel authentic. And I feel like, given, like I said, the way he exits certain things, the way he's just like, I don't want to deal with this, I'm leaving, most likely like leaving his post, was a tennis vice president or whatever, like, and then the Madrid thing and a few other things, like, it's like either my way or no way, and I'm leaving, and why, like, any little change that doesn't get made or any little change that does get made, he's not used to. It seems like it's like his hands are up and he's walking out the door, and I'm sure, it's not every single thing that happens with him, but, I just say all of this to say, Roger, oh my God, it's 27 minutes. I say all of this to say, Roger, like, don't let this throw you off. I feel personally, because this can't sit right with me, I feel like this is a passive-aggressive move from Rafa. I mean, he very well, if he is truly injured or whatever, all respect due. But Rafa, like I said, once again, nothing has been presented for this information to land right with me, to make me feel that this is really authentic. And I really don't care what any people think out there as well. So, otherwise. But, yeah, I don't know, like, where is this coming from? What happened? Like, nothing was said. Oh, Rafa was, practicing during the Olympics and he injured his knee or whatever. I haven't seen anything that gave me the exact incident that happened when his knee started hurting or when the tendonitis set in. I haven't seen any doctor, comment on this. I've just seen officials taking word of mouth, which I understand, and not being quoted as anything being backed up with any medical documents. So, and then also the suddenness and inconvenience of it all, you know, no points to defend next year, you know, and I'm sorry, but I'm just keeping it real. And a nice rest, sure, but Rafa is a ridiculous competitor. Can he really stand to stay away from tennis this long? You know what I mean? And the you know, just you know, the lack of a medical backup, you know, maybe this is really unfair, but I want you guys to know, even though I'm putting this out there, that I realize and recognize that none of this may be true or whatever. But I feel like there's also so much data that gives me the impression that this could just be like a passive-aggressive move. Like, oh, you guys don't want to change the season this way. You want to go thinking you could change a clay court to blue, and I'm going to have to play on it or whatever. You know, I'm out of here. And now I want the world to kind of see how the fans are going to do without me, and see if the money affects, you know, the attendance or whatever. And I mean, this may be extreme, but again, this is some of the data. This is leaving the door open, you know, and then the lack of authentic way in which this tendonitis and the timing that it was presented, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it was nothing like, I haven't seen anything. I follow Rafa on Twitter and Facebook. I follow Djokovic on Facebook and Twitter. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I'm just saying, like, the authenticity, you know, it's just like, I'm so sorry, my knees are not ready, I can't play. I totally get that, but, you know, there's nothing indicating, like, when this happened, or no media that I've read, you know, and it could be out there, and I apologize if it is out there and I've somehow missed it, but I haven't seen anything that really makes the situation really, really, really add up. So there you have it, Roger. I know I keep, like, trying to talk to you, but, you know, I just want to say, like, emotionally, I'm sure, and forgive me if this really is not true for you, but this has some sort of impact on you, some sort of impact on your game. And I just want to say, you know what? Just count on Rafa being out for the rest of the season. You know what I mean? Do not let this throw you off in one form or another. And I'm sure you did very well in the Olympics. You know, and once again, forgive me if this is something that's just not true for you. Like, oh, his absence doesn't have any effect on me. Oh, world girl, what the hell are you talking about? You're tripping. So, you know, but it's my hunch. Like, you know, like if I were in constant competition with someone and I had all this history with them, like I think them being out and suddenly being injured, and I'm not saying I say suddenly with all due respect, being injured and then stepping out of the Olympics, and now, you know, Cincinnati, Toronto, Montreal, or whatever it is, and now the U.S. Open, you know, I don't know. I just don't know, you know. I feel like some of this, it just leaves the timing of it, the lack of real data around it to support it, is just leaving the door open for my mind to be like, this is a passive-aggressive move. And the fact that, again, like the behavior in Madrid, some of the behavior toward the referees last season, some of the attitude with against Roger Federer earlier in the Australian Open, leaving the actual, instead of sticking in there and fighting as a high-profile player would with some weight. I mean, you really think, no offense, but Jill Simone is going to have more weight than Rafael Nadal against the ATP? You know what I mean? Who has more draw? Like, to know that you fill this role and you're supposed to be helping these lower players, you know, to really make a living, because they're the ones with the biggest impact or whatever. So to just up and leave that, you know, and you know what, I realize I don't know the entire story, so I want to kind of say this with only like a little bit of a grain of salt. So I'm just saying, like, all of this at the same time, all of his behaviors, plus now leaving all of a sudden and suddenly being like injured after the Rosal thing once again, and then out of the Olympics, out of you know, hardcore, the second half of hardcore season or whatever you want to call it. It just really, makes it so hard to present it in a way that you could just meet Rafa at the table and be like, I totally understand what you're going through. I really hope your needs are better. It's like in the meantime, Federer is going to #1 in the world. Federer has won a 7th championship at Wimbledon. Federer did really well on grass, and then the grass, everybody's writing about how well Federer is doing on grass, and then on top of that, the Olympics takes place at the same site, so Federer's chances of winning at the Olympics are really high, and then it's like Rafa's out. I don't know. And then it's like this whole thing with Djokovic, I don't know. And then the drop to #3 in the world, I just feel like it's like the same thing with those water bottles with him. Like, if you move it around a little bit, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And if he's losing, he doesn't want to participate, in many cases. And then if you're changing around the court, he doesn't want to appear there. And never mind his fans, and never mind the country it's taking place in the capital of the country that he's from. I know that Mallorca, Mallorcans most likely have a lot of pride and don't necessarily, I don't want to speak for them, but from what I understand is they really have more pride about Mallorca being a country itself rather than Spain. So that maybe there's a little bit of a disconnect there. I don't know. But, it's kind of like my way or the highway with him. And these are the ways that he's checked out in the past. And I believe that it leaves so much of an ambiguity so that I could just really not even meet him at the table and go, I hope you feel better. I do hope he feels better. But I'm just saying, like, I don't really believe this. That's it. All right, so Roger, just saying, don't let this affect you. If it's not anyway, it's no big deal. I apologize if that's not something that's true for you, but I'm just saying, like, I also feel this is a way, kind of a sort of manipulation or whatever, and it's not to say that Rafa's a bad person or anything like that. I really do believe some of his gripes with the ATP World Tour are relevant. And I mean, he's not slick either. Jill Simone coming out and flapping his mouth against the women and going, I know some other players who are afraid to say something, who have big endorsements. Like 2 weeks before Jill Simone was saying that, he and Rafa were sitting on the court playing practicing sessions together. So now I don't have proof that Rafa is the one. And I mean, hell, Roger, you could feel the same way. I don't even know if you feel like, well, I doubt it, kind of, since you were the one who seemingly was the one who pushed for the women to be able to get the equal prize money or whatever. And I understand where the men are coming. I'm not saying that I'm 100% branding the men for certain ways that they feel about those things, especially with all due respect to some of the women in tennis who are a little bit inconsistent. To a certain extent, check my other video for my comments on the women and stuff like that, because I'm all for women's tennis. It's one of the most exciting women's sports, period, and I feel like the women are top performers in a lot of ways, and they do deserve, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, getting back to Simone and to Rafa, like, that for me, when Jill Simone was like, nah, there are bigger players out here with huge endorsements that they could lose and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, okay. In my mind, I was like, I just read an article, you and Rafa sitting up there playing, practicing, and laughing it up on the court, So I'm like, is he the one? And then there were other rumors where Rafa had been complaining about the women getting paid the same. I don't know. The same prize money or whatever. I don't know. You know what? I don't really want to make that like a wrong or a right situation, but there's a lot of gripes. Clearly, I mean, if this is true, there's a lot of gripes that he has. But the way that he's venting his frustration and again by everything that I've repeated over and over again in this video, I just feel is not the right way, and I hope it's not affecting you at all, Roger, rather, and. Don't let it be like a ploy for you to like soften up on certain things. If you really feel, as president or whatever, that you've made the right decision about something, I think you should really stick with it and just don't let this behavior be a way of sort of, like a ploy of compassion, a ploy to grab your guilt and through guilt, elicit guilt from you, and through compassion, you actually end up doing something that you don't believe in. That may not benefit the lower players that you seemingly have been working to protect, and also the women as well. So anyway, this was really interesting talk for me. It's a lot of going on or whatever. I hope everyone who's watching enjoyed it, and I really hope that no one's offended. And at the end of the day, this doesn't change my level of overall respect for Rafa. You know, I just feel like each and every one of us has a certain quirks, and I'm just focusing on his quirk right now. And you know, for Rafa fans, true Rafa fans, I want you guys to know that, I definitely don't mean any disrespect, but this is really authenticity. And for Rafa himself, you know, Rafa, I just love if you could just meet us a little bit more than halfway with stuff. You know, I follow you on Twitter, you know, I follow you on Facebook, and a lot of times, like, you know, even with the Miami withdrawal and stuff like that, I get it that you were hurt, and I remember, I think, that being something that seemed authentic to me. I'm kind of going off a foggy memory, but then it was kind of like 2 weeks off, and then at Monte Carlo, and then playing like a champ that you were, 8-time champion. So although it's congratulations for you and everything, I don't know. It just lands weird, you know. It lands weird on fans and people like me. And like I said, you know, blame it on the fact I'm from New York City, where people run a lot of very elaborate game and schemes, and so you just really the mind just never is like, okay, so you're not feeling well, and you're out of the Olympics, and you're off the grass courts, and now this tendonitis is set in after a big devastating loss and bizarre loss at the same time, or maybe not so bizarre, I don't know. So I still love you, Rafa, but Roger, don't you let any of this affect you in any way. No guilt, no, you know, no shame, not shame, I'm sure you're not ashamed, but you know, I don't know if this is another way for other guys, or not, you know, just like some passive-aggressive way to get guys in the locker room to be like, see, this is, you know, there's something wrong, you know, this season's too long, you need to be doing something about it, Roger, because look at Rafa's out, and, you know, this is too much for him, and not only too much for him, but it's too much for us. Yes, it's too much for you guys. Yes, it is, but this is not the way to get a solution, you know. So just stick to your guns, and stick to your guns on the court, and fire those freaking guns. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be so loud, but I'm just saying, you know, do not let this situation undercut your focus one iota. Keep playing and enjoy. All right, I'm out of here. Long talk. Enjoyed it. Have a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed. For me, it was a challenge to really keep it real like this. And I have to say, personally, I feel really proud of myself that I did speak out, and I'm going to put this on YouTube and have my own opinion, like hanging out in the wind, you know. And I stick by my opinion, but respectfully. And I also stick by my appeal for things to be presented to me authentically, a little bit more in detail, and with the timing right, and in a way that makes sense, so that other doubts and things can't arise in my mind. That's all I'm saying, Rafa. That's all I'm saying. Talk to you guys. Bye.